Really good. All right. Thumbs up.
Almost all objective. I don't know what's in the way, but it should be. Chair. So that we get everybody in one picture. I don't know.
We got your bill or still? Oh, sorry. Okay. I call the North Plains City Council work session to order at 6:01. And I'm going to turn it over to.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, councilors. This week we are going to be discussing a plan that was adopted back in 2023 for North Plains downtown improvement. The North Plains Downtown Improvement Plan is a comprehensive plan to improve the downtown area, both economically and for the built improvements to the built environment. Bill, if you would go to the next slide. Okay. And it looks like we had a little PowerPoint glitch on this slide, so don't mind that the text doesn't match, but the Downtown Improvement Plan is a plan that was funded by the Oregon Transportation Growth Management Plan, TGM. As we've discussed over the past several months, TGM is active in North Plains, funding several of our planning efforts. And this planning process took the course of 2.5–3 years and was ultimately adopted in June of 2023. The plan started with a study area of northwest Glencoe to Gordon Road, and on the south boundary that was Cottage to the north boundary of Wasco Streets. So it's a pretty large area, broadly defined as downtown. Ultimately, the study area was brought closer in, really between Payburn and Hillcrest, and then from Glencoe to Main Street, where the main focus is. We now define the downtown core area as really being between 313th and Main and Commercial Street, the north side of Commercial Street included down to Payburn Street. So we've, over the process of developing this plan, tightened the study area and looked at a lot of the built conditions inside the study area, as well as the possibilities for development inside the study area. Here on the screen, you can actually see some great pictures from inside one of our existing developments. This is inside the downtown warehouses, where we have one of our community open houses for this project. Bill, if you go to the next slide. So speaking of community engagement in the process, we had a large project advisory committee which helped shape the development of the project and provide feedback on the products. The project team comprised of city staff as well as a consultant team from a number of different agencies, and guidance ultimately by ODOT, who runs the Transportation and Growth Management Program. This was also a plan that was blessed by the Economic Development Committee at the time, now known as the Economic Development Commission, the North Plains Planning Commission, and then ultimately adopted by the North Plains City Council in 2023. Slide, please. A bit about how we came to the final conclusions in this plan. We had 2 community open houses, which were some of our most well-attended public engagement that the city has done in recent times. It's a real feather in our cap, the amount of engagement we got, both with the in-person turnout, even though I wasn't here for that event, but I am told that it was supposed to be a sunny day and it was not quite a sunny day, but we still had really good turnout, which is a great thing to see for any public process. And we have really strong participation in online survey. You can view the results in the appendices C and H for the downtown plan, but we also have a great infographic that's available on the website as well. That illustrates some of those results. Really strong participation there. There were several PAC meetings, that project advisory committee, as well as stakeholder meetings going out to people who are going to be directly impacted by the plan and getting their feedback on a one-on-one or a small group setting. Several of those were held, and then going out to community organizations and sharing information with them as well. So this was a really comprehensive project. Like I said, it took several years to come together. And the crew here at the city, as well as our consultant team, put in a lot of time and effort in making sure that this was a project that reflected not just the technical needs of the downtown, but what the community wanted downtown to be. So, and that was actualized in the bit goals and vision of the downtown improvement plan. So this is the first bit of information that you'll see when you open the downtown improvement plan. You'll see the goals there being enhancing downtown as a destination for community and visitors alike, supporting business vitality, economic success, and looking at future development opportunities, improving multimodal connections. So encouraging people to get to downtown by walking, biking, transit, automobile, all of those modes to get downtown being equally represented in the long run. Enhancing the look and feel of downtown. I think this is the most visible part of the plan. It's something that we all immediately can see. Downtown has more of an industrial character at the moment, and that's something that the community reflected wanting to change, wanting to see wide sidewalks and narrower streets, things like outdoor dining or improved streetscape by having planter boxes, street trees, or decorative lamps. So all of those elements are considered in the plan as well. And then probably the least talked about element then is going to be including more housing in downtown. The state is in a declared housing crisis, and so it was considered during the creation of the plan how we could accommodate housing downtown, what types of housing would be best suited for downtown, and any, if any publicly supported or public-private partnerships would be feasible for downtown. And then ultimately, they wanted to create an implementable plan, and I believe we were successful with that. Plan has been adopted, and we've already created some different code amendments and created and completed some of the projects. Here on the side, we have the vision statement. This comes from our comprehensive plan. I believe most of you are familiar with it, but some of the highlights being a vibrant, walkable, enticing place to shop, dine, and gather, commercial street retaining historic character, quality of housing, area being safe and convenient for people on all modes of transportation, and then having that main street character. So cohesive design, unique character, and different amenities for people visiting and for community members who are here on a day-to-day basis. Bill, if you would. Okay, and so this is the meat and potatoes of the plan where we get into the implementable actions. We broke down the plan into 5 recommendations, at the core here being retaining and growing small business, then favoring fostering a favorable environment for investment, public and private, establishing a civic center with vibrant public spaces. Those are opportunities for people to engage civically as well as be involved in public events. Building appropriate infrastructure for downtown, that's getting into that streetscape element, and creating future opportunities for housing. All of these goals are broken down into sub-actions over the near, medium, and long term. And this plan really looks at the next decade from 2023 to 2033. So it's near-term actions being 1 to 2 year, medium term being that 2 to 5 years, and long term being that 5 to 10 year mark. We're now in 2026, so we're looking at a lot of medium term and prepping for long-term project goals. Bill, if you would. And these are some of the priority actions that we've pulled out from the downtown improvement plan. There's a lot listed in there, and I'd be remiss to not say that you should be considering all of those actions, but we don't necessarily have all the time to go through each one in minute detail today. So these are some that staff have been calling out as really our priorities. And the near term, that's conducting outreach to businesses, attracting businesses with marketing, and then updating the zoning code and updating our transportation system plan. In the medium term, that looks like helping to establish a Main Street program. I believe several of you are familiar with Oregon Main Street, and the benefits that having a Main Street organization can bring to the town. That's a really big draw for the community. Establishing a storefront improvement plan. I know this board, as the URA board, has been mulling over different options for storefront improvement and other grant programs. And then facilitating reuse of key properties. So that looks like working with property owners, as well as considering properties that the URA maintains control of through ownership. Or the city as well. We own several properties downtown. Long term, it looks like future acquisitions by the URA of other opportunity sites identified in the plan. Facilitating the redevelopment of our currently city-owned properties, such as the library and library annex site. And then rebuilding Commercial Street from Northwest Glencoe all the way to Main Street. Bill, if you would. And this here illustrates the intersection between URA projects and downtown improvement projects. And I like to highlight this. There is a lot of intersection between what downtown improvement looks like and what URA looks like. Downtown streetscape and rebuilding Commercial Street is a huge project for both the downtown improvement plan and the URA. One of the most costly in both of those. Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue safety improvements. That looks like both supporting Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue in their station renovation efforts, as well as making sure that our street improvements are safe for their operations. A new civic center and public plazas supported by our recent funds from USDA Rural, courtesy of Senator Bonamici, and is a priority project both in the URA and downtown improvement plans. And then grants and loans, ways for us to support business in improving and expanding their operations. Things that fall more on the URA side, railroad crossing improvements, improvements to streets that are outside of the downtown core but still periphery, like West. And then things like multi-use trails that will filter into downtown but are not directly included in downtown, as well as storm drainage and water system updates. Those are big projects, expensive projects. They are going to impact downtown, but they are not within the purview of the downtown plan itself. And then things that fall more on the downtown side, maybe not the responsibility of the URA, are those marketing activities and business recruitment, creation of new events, and then updates to city code, as well as supporting Main Street organization efforts. So. And then we get into implementation. This is the fun part. This is where staff gets to really put boots on the ground and start doing things. So up top, under both accomplished and near future, you'll see zoning code updates. We have done some, but not all of the zoning code updates. There's still work to be done. But we now have a completely new downtown design standard section that really supports the development of a character, of a unique character in downtown that's distinct from the rest of town. We have completed an inventory of properties, and we maintain regular contact with those property owners. And we have completed additional signage in 2024 at the intersection of Glencoe and Commercial to draw people to downtown. Some of the things that are in progress, Main Street organization, which I just talked about. We're able to get together a group of business owners and organization representatives back in January to talk about Main Street organizing. Becoming a Main Street organization is a private nonprofit. It's not a city or a URA activity, but we can provide technical assistance, and that's really our goal. So we will be supporting them in any ways that they ask for as far as technical assistance goes. And then things that will be coming in front of this body soon, storefront improvement, historic building programs. Those are grant and loan opportunities that can be set up by the URA to support our existing or future businesses downtown. And then facilitating the redevelopment of city property. So developing plans for a civic center, supporting that development as it goes through the process. In the near future, things that we aren't quite ready to initiate, pursuing catalytic redevelopment. So that can look like what we can do with properties that we own, partnering with developers, or providing technical assistance via grant or loan programs to investigate what sort of development could be catalytic for the city, for developers to pursue. And then updating the transportation system plan for Commercial Street. I will get into much more granular detail on this later, but our current transportation system plan has an adopted cross-section and several references to Commercial Street that don't match up with the real conditions of Commercial Street. So we do need to do some alignment between what the transportation system plan reflects, what the built conditions of Commercial Street reflect, and what the goals of the downtown improvement plan are. And then future projects, marketing available properties, creating new events and destinations has been a long-term goal of the city. Something I personally worked on for a number of months when I was serving here as an AmeriCorps. It's an exceptionally hard thing to get off the ground, as events are incredibly labor intensive and very volunteer intensive. And then the big projects for the city, rebuilding Commercial Street and the new Civic Center. Those are long-term goals that we will be pursuing, but we are looking many years in the future as we plan those out. Bill? Okay. Historic building improvements. So this board heard last council meeting about some ideas for grant programs or loan programs. This is one that directly ties in with the downtown improvement plan. So improving older downtown buildings to facilitate either an increase in the use or reuse or an expansion of the scope of the use. That can include extraordinary costs for structural improvements, safety improvements, changing the use of the building, are all things that this board can consider when developing a new grant or loan program. That's funded by the URA budget, and we can implement this very quickly depending on how the board approaches the new programs. So, and then Commercial Street. This is a lot of text on one slide, but we'll try to make the best sense of it. Commercial Street's going to be approached in phases. Immediately, we are looking at some interim safety and functionality measures to make Commercial Street safer and more attractive to people who are shopping and dining and existing downtown. So the immediate goals are addressing safety, functionality, and usability. And this is going to be hopefully funded by Small Cities allotment as being pursued by Public Works and Engineering. And we're expecting to implement this over the next 1 to 4 months. Then looking at 2027, we're going to address the transportation system plan and those discrepancies between the real conditions, the conditions in the plan, and the conditions of the aspirational conditions of the downtown improvement plan. And that is going to be either a city or grant funded effort to align, most likely bringing in some consultants to do that work. And we can likely carry this out in 2027 or 2028. And then Commercial Streets reconstruction, that's the big project here. That's going to look like fully repaving, improving the water system, potentially addressing undergrounding of utilities, and rebuilding Commercial Street from Northwest Glencoe to Northwest Main. This is a big project. Adjusted for inflation from the 2022 numbers, we're over $10 million, not including the water system or undergrounding utilities. This is a project which is likely going to be addressed by a combination of URA, city, and grant funding. And it's a long-term project. We're looking at least 5 to 8 years to be able to accomplish this. Bill, if you would. Okay, I said I was going to get into granular detail here about that discrepancy between the transportation system plan, the built conditions, and the downtown improvement plan. So what you'll see, and this doesn't show up great on the screen here, but we'll try to explain this. The current adopted standard is this collector street cross section that you see above the other two in white here. And this reflects a 70-foot collector street. And that's what most of our collectors are, but commercial 80 feet. So we're working within an extra 5 feet on either side, that's not reflected in the adopted standard. So what we need to do, is take the cross sections that we got from the downtown improvement plan. And these were not adopted, they're in the plan, but they aren't adopted into our transportation system plan. So they're living in limbo, so to speak, right now. What we need to do is, take another look at these, ensure that they are, aligned with all of our goals, and then adopt them into the transportation system plan. Those cross sections reflect that 80-foot right of way and the goals of the transportation system, or of the downtown improvement plan, excuse me. So that is the goal with that, interim project happening in the next 1 to 2 years. Bill, if you would. Okay, and then the interim measures. So how do we deal with this discrepancy in the meantime? It has been identified that we have a compliance issue with the Americans with Disabilities Act at the intersection of Northwest 314th and Commercial. And our TSP does require us to be compliant with the ADA for width, slope, and curb ramp design. This is also a location that is adjacent to an entire block of civic facilities and senior housing. This is a priority location for staff. It really needs to be improved. So this is what we're going to look to address primarily with that small cities allotment in the interim project this summer. It'll bring our downtown core closer to that adopted standard as it is right now, and support the recent transit upgrades that we got, including a bike hub and an upgraded bus stop downtown. So we want to be respectful of the fact that our transit agencies are putting investment into downtown and make sure that we're holding up our end of the bargain, and making sure that we're adopting the right standards. And the goal outcomes here: slowing down vehicle traffic, improving pedestrian safety, and enhancing our bicycle facilities and bike safety as well. Okay, and the new Civic Center. So we are currently in the pre-planning phase. We just recently got that USDA rural commitment. This will take another look at what our Civic Center needs are as far as area and facilities go. The last time we addressed Civic Center needs, we did not have the Kindle building over on West Union. So that's a big facility add, and we will certainly be looking at addressing the change in needs there now that we have that facility. And then we will be looking at the midterm goal planning and assessing what funding sources we have for the Civic Center. Ultimately, long-term, going into the construction phase of that project, which will likely be a combination URA grant and city project. Bill, if you will. And that is a lot of information in a short amount of time, but I'm open for discussion and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Councilor Porch here. This is a lot of great information. I appreciate your support for downtown businesses. I'm interested in sequencing of these projects, particularly the expensive ones, and make sure that we're all aligned on how the money is going to work. Is there a framework that we can share so that we all have a common understanding of the priorities of the sequencing?
Yes, so if you go into the plan, you'll find a table that shows you how the projects are all sequenced as far as near, mid, and long term. Of course, we are not going to be able to address every single action item. That's going to be something that between staff expertise in this body, you determine which projects are the highest priority, as we called out on one of the slides there. I believe it is slide 7. We have a list of sort of priorities that staff has been addressing. In the short term, that's outreach, marketing, and code updates, TSP updates, followed by Main Street programs, grant and loan programs, and reuse. And then looking at those long-term projects, really what staff has identified as being the rebuilding of Commercial Street and the development of a civic center or public plaza being the top of that list.
Thank you. Quick follow-up. So I appreciate that, and I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to review that before we proceed on projects, so that we're all aligned.
Of course.
Thank you.
Councilor Ugarte.
Thank you, Councilor Ugarte. Rowan, thank you so much for this presentation, and just a quick follow-up as well. Just a couple quick questions. I was curious, one, is there still discussion to have the potential new civic center where the current library and library annex is?
I believe we are assessing multiple different locations, but it'll come down to feasibility.
Thank you, Rowan. Great question, Counselor. So it's never been finally decided what side of Commercial Street the civic center needs to be on. We have brought to, this has been a few years of discussing and planning, including the downtown plan. But it's never been decided what side of Commercial Street to do the facility when the time comes. I expect that when we do get, I'm going to scope in the scope of work of updating the Civic Center to get some finalized recommendations for what side of the street the facility should be on. I think though that it's fair to say that we know that on the north side of Commercial Street where the big red house is and where the yellow house is, when the time comes for them to be bulldozed, there's enough space to have a civic center. The problem is that if, as this, in the future, if the city needs more space or it changes its mind about what's in the Kindle building versus civic center, the city would have to buy the houses on either side and bulldoze them to grow the city facility need. So there's far more flexibility to do it on the south side of Commercial, starting with where the current library annex former city hall building is. Ideally, that we'll hear from the architects, but I will not be shocked if they say yes. Plan to bulldoze that building if you do this, and then rebuild something bigger and probably go up 2 stories. You can have community space, council chambers, the things that we're missing because, we're anticipating that the project is actually a little smaller because we don't need police there. It's more about council chambers, maybe finance, taking water payments there. So less space need, and then maybe some more design for like a fountain or pavilion outside to kind of give people more reason to come downtown, sort of thing. So we'll hear from the architects about some of that.
Thank you for that. Just a couple other quick things. I really like the idea of really prioritizing that civic center, public plaza. Just thinking how we can draw foot traffic to that downtown core. So I think about all the events we hold here at Jesse Mays, and even though it's, a tenth of a mile down the road, just being 1 block away, sometimes, a consumer might not think, oh, we just had a really great chili dinner and let's go get some Pilgrim's nuts. So I think being close in proximity would be really, really beneficial, as well as that multi-use trail. Thinking through like Banks Begonia Trail and how some of those businesses really capitalize on the foot traffic, especially on the weekends. And just the last question I had was, thinking about the Glencoe and West Union intersection project with those MISTIP funds from the county. Is there any sort of cost savings that we can capitalize on from that project carrying forward to the Commercial Street improvement project?
Yes, so the short answer is that the county improving the intersection now does save us some cost. Because we won't have to rebuild Commercial Street all the way to the intersection. What I would say is I wouldn't count on it being a significant difference. The reconstruction of Commercial Street between Glencoe and 313th is much more superficial than what's happening between 313th and Main Street as the plan is today. So there's less work that needs to be done in that section. It's much more intensive work in the downtown core area. So that's where we're expecting a majority of the costs to be borne out. But yes, it is always a benefit to have the county undertaking transportation upgrades in the city and bearing those costs.
Absolutely. I think just a follow-up I have is, while that improvement project is underway with the county, is there any cost savings that we can capitalize on as a city? Say, hey, you already have the ground ripped open because you're improving, fiber optic, I don't know. Let's go ahead and make this water line replacement while the ground is there. Is there anything like that that's typically done as a best practice for cities, or?
That is something that I will have to defer to Public Works on.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right, well, so I have a couple questions. On the transportation system plan, sorry, I couldn't remember the acronym. On the TSP, so we have public transit in there, but in plan, it is listed as Wave and Westlink. So I'm just clarifying, that's what we're referring to when we say public transit. We're not talking about bringing Metro in.
Oh, when we talk about public transportation, so public transportation, under both of our plans, there's no plans to bring TriMet out here. I do not believe TriMet's interested.
There's not enough writers for
Yeah.
economics.
Just wanted to clarify that I was reading that correctly, because that's what I read, but I don't.
Our local transportation providers are Ride Connection, which is a nonprofit operating in Western Washington County. And then we have a regional connector, Tillamook Wave.
Yes.
Comes between Portland and the coast, and ODOT now operates regional connection through here as well.
Right. And we have the North Plains Volunteer Network. Okay, so my other one was on housing choices. So I assume that will come out of Planning Commission as part of the updates as well, because that was one of the things we had referred to Planning Commission was standards, design standards on the apartments and housing types.
Yes, that will be going through Planning Commission and then come to this body.
Okay, so that's all part of what we already sent to them. We don't need to specifically focus on this because we've already told them that, right? I'm just clarifying that I understood.
As far as housing zoning codes updates go, yes, that's gonna be wrapped in with existing projects. That's why I drew italics on the.
I thought so,
Yeah.
but it's always better to ask people to know. Who else? Councilor Warren. Oh, and if you can please state your name, just so everybody knows, even though we know, but.
Councilor Warren. Thank you for the presentation. Well done. Just a couple of questions. Was the presentation that we saw dated 2023, or have you updated it since then?
The plan
The
is,
presentation that you just presented, it was dated 23, right?
no, this presentation was drafted last week.
Oh, okay, the date on it says 23, so I want,
The plan is 23,
The
correct?
plan was adopted in 2023, yes.
okay, it's confusing, so, all right. Lost my train of thought. Sorry, I had a headache. So since, and I hate to bring up this topic because it's sensitive, but in the plans that we just saw, for Commercial Street, for all the traffic, there isn't a loading zone area, so I'm assuming that's going to be added to this plan.
So, as adopted, we can use or as proposed and as we regulate the right of way right now in the transportation system plan. It is standard practice that if a loading zone is needed, it is placed in the parking lane.
I see. Thank you.
Hagedorn, Counselor Hagedorn.
I have a question on I really appreciate the slide that you had on the DIP and URA intersection of all these projects, and in particular, I zeroed in and the intersect and grants and loans were on there, I noticed. Which then, and I appreciate you kind of adding the head nod on the historic building improvement grants, and I near immediate 3 months, which is excellent, and I was curious. Do you have guidance that you need from the council body to run fast and make this happen? And if not, what guidance would you need from us today to, if this is you are a grant budget initiative, but yet this is kind of at that intersection point that you highlighted, who's the governing body to support you move this forward?
Yep. So on grants and loan programs, as we discussed in the last work session, that is programs that will be adopted by or approved by the URA board and then administered by staff. So I believe we are planning at the next URA board meeting to bring together some draft program frameworks and receive your feedback on those. Thank you.
Counselor Weber, can we call back up the street one again with the drive lanes and the bike lanes and, I was just trying to make sure I understood. Okay, so we have the one on the left is the street design for the downtown core segment. So that one applies for which, up how far?
So that applies, or that is scoped to apply from 313th to Main Street. And as a reminder, the ones on the bottom are included in the downtown improvement plan, but are not currently adopted into the transportation system plan. So right now, anything we do in the interim, we must adhere to that top cross section.
The top one is the official one now.
That's the official right now, which is why it's a priority to update the transportation system plan in the next 1 to 2 years.
Okay, so that's the one, I get it. So that's the one we're talking about now. When we were talking about like the parking outside the food bank, there'd be this
Yeah,
14-foot strip.
that's correct. What we're doing right now is interim, trying to make sure we're compliant with our existing plans, which is why the interim project is mostly paint and striping and not permanent improvements. And then adopt these new standards and do that long-term project to do all those permanent improvements.
So the commercial street design and the commercial street design eastern segment and downtown, those are proposed, but they've never been enacted.
They've not been adopted into the transportation system plan at this time. That's an action item that has yet to be executed.
But are they supposed to, is that the proposal that they should be?
Yes, the proposal is that they should be.
So if they were, does that conflict with like what we're talking about doing, say outside the food bank, these?
No, if they are adopted into the transportation system plan, then you'll see that substantially from the middle section there, these two don't look terribly different. So we can do an interim project that is as compliant as possible with, given the existing street conditions. And then plan for those long-term permanent improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Questions, comments?
Counselor Redding here. Just to play devil's advocate, with Counselor Ugarte. I think I brought this to Bill at least, and maybe discussed it with other people or other citizens, but my idea with the Civic Center was to make it a buffer if we ever brought, the land south of Sunset Ridge and all the way to the Sunset Highway. If that was a primarily commercial area, my idea was to use the Civic Center as a buffer between our residential neighborhoods and the commercial. It also spreads out that we have the library and food bank here on commercial, frees up whatever commercial space we were gonna use for the Civic Center for businesses to make this our true downtown, like corridor, business corridor. And then we have, you know, the separation. So library, we have the Public Works building down kind of near Stewart Lane, that area. And then we have the Civic Center on the other side of Sunset Ridge, just to kind of spread it out, give each, you know, people equal opportunity to these civic buildings. So I was just playing a little devil's advocate. That's my wild idea if that was to happen. I know we can't probably make plans on dreams. But it would also be great if we could discuss
But it's
UGB and what we want as a council, or, you know, individuals can be able to discuss some ideas going forward and maybe be able to move some of this.
So correct me if I'm wrong, actually, that would be, and please, keep me honest, I think individual counselors can attend as an individual counselor and make public comment at the meetings. So we determined with Emily, I'll find out.
Yeah, double check.
I'll double check this, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But yeah, what I'm getting at is trying to think of yes. I don't think anything's off the table. I think that was Bill's kind of point, but I agree, there's a lot of opportunities. I'll say one of the conversations that we had when, Representative Bonamici was here. One of the reasons we were thinking about that area was because it's already owned. But it doesn't mean that's where we're gonna go. It was just like when we were trying to like, you know, we have to do the political thing and talk to the person that's giving you $1 million. That was kind of what we were thinking about and dreaming, but I also think that it's important that we as a city dream a little bit too and think about like, hey, you know, like what if this or what if that, because I think that's where the good ideas come from. So I think the answer is, I don't know. Yeah, let's
It's
keep
just an
reading.
idea,
No, I think
really
it's
thought.
interesting.
That's simply it.
It's an interesting idea because the thought, I think the thought that, at least that I had when I heard it was, hey, if we put a civic center here, it draws people in. But then if we put a commercial center down there, maybe that draws people. So I don't know, there's not a,
It's not right or wrong.
it's not black
just
or white,
an
yeah,
idea.
yeah, exactly.
It's just an
There's a
idea.
lot of good ideas, yeah. No, I think it's interesting.
The only other thing I wanna kind of call it is the bike lane on the inside of the park lane on the bottom right.
Yes, that is a buffered bike lane.
Where else do they do that?
I would have to find specific locations, but it is a more common theme in modern transportation planning to bring the bike lanes on the inside, and you'll see there's a little buffer area with some barriers. And what that does is it prevents what we call dooring,
Yeah, that was my concern.
which is a pretty horrific thing that happens to cyclists.
Yeah.
So that is designed to prevent dooring.
Let's see the little yellow thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm
And
sorry,
this-
so Counselor, you're referring to having the bike lane inside the parking lot. Oh, yeah. I think I've seen that in downtown Portland, if I remember right. but-
I haven't seen it anything smaller of our
Oh,
size.
I see where you're going. Oh.
So, like, I understand, so I get it all. It's new and, you
Yeah,
know,
that was a good
we
question.
don't like new in this town. It's just, we like what works. So I would love to see examples in maybe towns our size.
Absolutely. And something I will say, for better or for worse, the commercial street right of way is abnormally wide. We have a lot of space to work with. And so you'll see, we have proposed there, I believe that's 8-foot sidewalks, in a residential portion of the downtown. So this is a very wide, spacious right of way to work with.
But that will also allow like the downtown core to have, whereas on the bottom left, those
Okay.
outcroppings are
dining.
like, yeah, they're.
Yes.
Interesting. That's very good one.
You might not know the question or answer to this question, but I, every time I go downtown Portland, I'm thinking about this floating zone situation.
Mhm.
And I see, and it's, how wide is like, Broadway, for example,
Or,
compared to our abnormally sized. commercial seats?
Broadway in Portland,
oh,
where there's a lot of.
Because you see
Right.
that, you see the bike lanes.
Yep.
You see the yellow thingies, you see people, you see dining centers in the parking areas
It
and.
stresses me out.
And it's wall to wall, parking. And sometimes people drive down the middle road, 'cause there's some cars, anyways, I digress here, how wide is that comparison in
Oh, that's
comparison to this?
that is something that I can easily find out for you. I don't remember off the top of my head. I do believe that most of those
Yeah.
downtown.
How wide is Broadway Street in Portland, Oregon?
Or Hawthorne, too.
Just Googling, Broadway is 52 to 56.
Oh, wow.
From curb to curb.
Oh, well, curb to curb plus usually 12-foot sidewalks on either side. So, I mean, you're still only looking 75 to 80 feet. So
Okay,
it's about the same.
Oh, that's interesting.
That would make it about the same.
Huh.
Except it's one way all through the grid there.
yeah,
Oh, is it now?
So you don't.
Oh,
have
Broadway,
different
right.
competing directions and, yeah, you don't have one lane per direction of traffic, but it's similar.
After conversations with Mr. Kelly, the former mayor of Hillsborough, I'm just gonna suggest we never talk about one way ever. Cause he was not, that one almost killed him. I'm joking, but yeah, the one way would be interesting, but yeah, I think this makes sense, but.
how wide is the main street in Hillsborough, now you got me thinking, oh, sorry.
No.
How wide, how,
Commercial Street in Hillsborough.
or Main Street, which would be functionally equivalent to our commercial, right?
Only 2 lanes though,
With parking.
parking.
One way, let's
I
work.
don't know, but yeah, it's an interesting question.
Okay.
It doesn't have bike lanes either, I don't think.
Oh, I think you're right. There are,
It's just-
Yeah, it's just parking, street,
well,
and
let's,
traffic.
Parking on both sides though.
well, yeah, all right.
Okay,
While we're
sorry.
working on this one, Councilor Weber has another question.
Council Weber, I was just gonna say, I think we brought up a good issue, which is all this, pay attention when you go to your favorite downtown. And see how they lay it out.
That is-
'Cause I think,
it is a
I
good
think we
point.
learn a lot from what works and doesn't work.
Observing, yeah.
So pay attention.
No, it's a good point.
I carry your tape measure.
I guess, what I would point out about certainly the plan on the left for the downtown core is, the intent there was, keep it one way each way.
Yeah.
1 lane of vehicular movement each way. And then, and then parking, and then all kinds of active, pedestrian space. Because keeping it just the 1 lane each way just makes it more friendly to walk around, across the street to shop, back across the street to dine. That was,
Well, and I'll just say, going to like Hillsborough, I think it's Tuesday Market, and then wherever the one is in Forest Grove. They do a good job, like I like to go look, just cause I like to observe what they're doing, to Council Weber's point. My opinion, I'm just sharing my opinion, I like the 2 bottom plans personally, because in my opinion, that kind of opens us up to a little more economic development. Where we can actually do those types of things that suck people into downtown more. What that exactly turns into and looks like, I mean, we'll see, but it seems like. It's effective, and the outdoor dining would be nice in the, 30 seconds of sunlight that we actually get in Oregon. So I think it would be fun to have the outdoor dining, even if we had to do awnings, because. In some cities, that's very popular, and I think it would be popular personally. So I think the concept makes sense to me, but that was my. What else? Sorry. Questions, comments? Complaints?
For reference, baseline through downtown Hillsborough is 70 feet.
Oh, so 10 feet.
We are wider.
Baseline,
Not wide.
Through downtown Hillsborough is
Yeah,
70.
that's canyon. TV highway.
yeah.
What's that?
Baseline?
Yes, baseline is 1 way, because the other one is, I forget the name, but. I
So
was-
at about it becomes 1 way.
Yeah, you're right, sorry.
in
Yes.
Hillsborough, yeah,
Yes.
Old Town.
You turn off the corner
Yeah,
in on
You're right.
Main, baseline Main, and it
Huh.
becomes 1 way pretty quickly.
It
Not
does.
right there, but pretty quick.
Well, and for all the things that we love to complain about Hillsborough for. And we do love Hillsborough. But they have done a great job with that downtown restoration. So if you have an opportunity, I mean, I agree, you should go look, Councilor Robert, you should go like just walk around. It has not always been that nice. And I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm sure we could pull it, but I know it's done a lot for them, just talking with the mayor and others. So. But it also takes a lot of work. And $10 million apparently,
Cooperation.
and cooperation. So, yeah, no, I think it's interesting, I like the idea, but again, I don't really know what else to say about that. Of course, come for you. Anybody else? I,
Councilor Rennie,
oh, yeah, legal stuff.
so what is our ultimate output of this work session?
That's true.
So there's a few things that we want to focus on bringing out of this work session. One is that, at the next URA board meeting, we will be bringing forward those grant and loan program frameworks. It's really important that we develop those frameworks, get those blessed by this body, and begin administration of those, so that we're being an effective, renewal agency. The second thing is support and active engagement as we go through interim improvements to Commercial Street, as well as we develop the transportation system plan updates. And then long-term future planning, maintaining good connection with those projects, providing feedback when staff comes to you, and then looking forward, supporting staff as we look for funding, grant programs and whatnot. That looks like we're going to be potentially pursuing state and federal resources. Anywhere that we can find funding for those projects is great, and it requires your support.
Okay, so we don't need to make any decisions or give any direction or anything like that.
Not today. I will share, Representative Edwards reached out because she's campaigning and asked what we wanted. So, I'll bring this up to her, as we'd like your support on the, and I'll just tell her, like, staff can figure this out. I don't know exactly, but yes, we'd like some help with this, because I know she's been a friend to the city before, so we'll leverage that as a try to help with one. Anything else? All right, with that, we are adjourned at 6:51. City Council at